What up, y'all? This is Tracy from Nerd Squish, and today we're going to be talking about our third speculation map for Halloween Horror Nights 32. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, another spec map has dropped, and boy, oh boy, this one has me hyped. I'm not gonna lie, the last two, they were odd. This one has me so hyped that, dare I say, if the actual official event looks anything like this map, this could be one of the best years of Halloween Horror Nights that we've seen in recent years. So what's really exciting about this spec map is not only have the houses changed and evolved, but we have scare zones and shows. I know, hold on to your butts, people. It's exciting. So this map dropped yesterday, July 5th, 2023. And like literally before this dropped, I was sitting in my kitchen talking to Matt and I was like, man, they're just not giving us anything. Whether it's like park official news or spec maps, there's nothing. So I started filming this whole other video deep diving onto some other thing that has really nothing to do with this year's event. And then boom, we got a spec map. So this spec map dropped late in the day, which most of them really don't do that. And as a result, I was too tired to film. But I was in fact hyped. So hyped that I put on a presentation in my bedroom to my husband about how hyped I was. I mean, look at this. I'm tired, but there's excitement somewhere in there. Before we get into the details of this new spec map, if you're new here, this is Nerd Squish, where we take everything spooky and we take everything nerdy and we squish it all together. So if you like Halloween Horror Nights, horror movies, and pop culture, definitely hit that subscribe button so you can see more videos from us in the future. I'm not really going to go into detail of properties that have officially been announced or properties that have been on the last two previous maps. If you do want more details on that, check out these other videos that I did on Spec Map 1 and Spec Map 2. So just to kind of briefly run over that, we already know we're getting Chucky and The Last of Us. Now we have three houses. While they haven't been officially confirmed, they were on the last spec map and nothing's really changed. I have nothing to add. And those three consist of Universal Monsters Paris, this witchy Salem situation, and this medieval dueling dragons thing. I have nothing really to add to these as they haven't changed from this last spec map, so, you know, until we get more concrete details, I got nothing to give you on that, I'm sorry. One thing that I will say is this medieval looking, Game of Thrones looking situation. It sounds like people are saying that this is going to be themed, or at least hint at, the Dueling Dragons ride that they used to have in Islands of Adventure, so that's just one thing worth noting. The first new information on this map is scratchy trees. Now, I got hyped when I saw this, because you know my brain. If you've been around here, you know that immediately I was like, werewolves. This is werewolves. And the reason that I think that could be true is the fact that our first speculation map of the season had devil dogs, which is kind of like an offshoot from Slaughter Cinema. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe the devil dogs are here, but it's not actually devil dogs. It's just like an original werewolf house. And you know I got hyped. Now, my gut also tells me it's probably not going to be werewolves, because that's what I want it to be, so it's probably not going to be that. I'm thinking what it's actually going to be is some kind of a Bigfoot situation. A big thing is the monsters of folklore. You know, last year we had Fiesta de Chupacabras, so we were all thinking that we were going to get another house along that line, something to do with monsters, and so maybe this is a Bigfoot situation. So, I don't know. I'm ready to see sassy Bigfoot, but I'm really hoping it's werewolves. So next up on the map, we have the Exorcist. And I know what you're thinking. Why are you bringing this up? We've already had Exorcist on the last map. This is not new information. Oh, but it is. This thumbnail has slightly evolved from the last map. The last one read The Exorcist Believer, which meant it was following more of the new Exorcist movie that will be coming out this year. But this one, we've dropped Believer and it's just The Exorcist. I don't know, I mean, I never got to experience a Exorcist house at Halloween Horror Nights, so I am very excited. But they did have this at the event a couple years ago, so it's kind of interesting that they dropped Believer and they're like, hey, we're gonna do this again. Although it is kind of weird, again, to just walk through a house where like every room is just the same room, but just like a different scene or a different angle. I don't know how I feel about that. So I don't know, we'll see. And probably some of the biggest and most exciting news to come from this spec map is Stranger Things has hit the map. I really hope this stays on. I know the fandom seems to be kind of divided with Stranger Things at the event. I love it. Specifically, this last season was one of the scariest seasons they've had. They really tapped into that horror aspect of the show. And who doesn't love the idea of all the music that this will bring? Not only do we have Running Up That Hill, but we have Metallica. We're gonna see Eddie on top of that trailer just shredding it up with the lightning and the bats, and it's going to be beautiful. I think this will be a fantastic house if it stays on the map. Continuing on to the map with new information, we have the Fancy Sea. When I first saw this, I was like, okay, like no clue. I have no clue what this is. But then I started thinking. There has been rumors that the icon this year will be Dr. Oddfellow. If you're not familiar with him, don't worry. He is sort of a deep cut, but he is in connections to Jack the Clown, as he was the ringleader, if you will, of the Carnival of Thrills that Jack worked at. He's also the guy that kind of killed Jack, so awkward. But if you look at this, it's a C. So immediately I'm like, okay, Carnival of Thrills, right? And then it's kind of old and antique-y looking, which all of this took place years ago. Even though Jack is like a current guy, I mean, his origin story goes back to like the 1800s. So I was like, okay, this could be that. And then to even further that, if you look at the last spec map, we had a carnival circus tent in this spot. So, I'm saying it, this is Dr. Oddfellow. We're going to the carnival, y'all, and it's gonna be a good time. And also to kind of cement that in, if you look back in the past at Jack the Clown's Carnival of Carnage, look at this symbol. Look at the symbol. It's the same design, but of course with Jack or the J in the middle. But if you zoom in and really look at it, what do you see behind that J? A C. A C for Carnival of Thrills. And our last new house that we have is this guitar with horns. Now this one isn't exactly brand spanking new because we have both seen guitars on the map as well as a devil emoji. So now we've taken those two and we've kind of combined them. And so the rumor is this year that this is going to be some type of crossroads house, which I love. I love the idea of the crossroads and the stories of people selling their soul to become this famous jazz musician. I mean, the aesthetics and the soundtrack in this house, feeling it, loving it. That's all the houses. Now we're gonna get into the scare zones, which this got wild. I was not expecting scare zone information, much less this much. I mean, this is a lot. Now, let's break this down. There's two different colors on this map for scare zones. Okay, let's use that term loosely. In fact, I think what we have here is we have scare zones, and then we have roaming hordes. Now, if you're not familiar, the roaming hordes is not a full set and an immersive experience. You just have characters chasing you. Okay, it's a scare zone without the pretty stuff. It's just the actors. So we have the Carnival of Oddities Horde, which of course this would go along with Dr. Oddfellow and his carnival freaks. So this is a really, really fun little area and idea because if Dr. Oddfellow is in fact our icon, for him to have a house and a scare zone just makes the experience and him being the icon all the more immersive. And the other roaming horde that we have is Megan. Now, Megan was huge when it came out. It kind of took the horror world and TikTok by storm. And Megan was seen on our first spec map in a duo Blumhouse situation with Insidious. The fact that we're gonna have a roaming horde of Megan dolls, that's gonna be hilarious. I feel like it's gonna be a dance zone. This is gonna be a fun zone. We're gonna have a good time here. I don't even know what to expect. I think it's gonna be ridiculous and hilarious, and I can't wait to see what this is. Now, this next thing I wanna talk about is the Death Eaters. It is also in red, much like these two horde zones, but this one isn't labeled that way. Now, we know the Death Eaters have been featured at Islands of Adventure at night, but it's its own separate thing. It has really nothing to do with Halloween Horror Nights, as the event is not in that park. Now, my only complaint with this, as much as I want to see the Death Eaters in a spooky Harry Potter situation, it is kind of a bummer because I know a lot of people love going to Diagon Alley during Halloween Horror Nights to kind of get that break, to get away from the scares and just relax for a moment. And, you know, especially I know people like my sister who, you know, she's not really into the chainsaws or the scare zones. So it's always kind of nice for her to kind of go over there, recharge, and get back out there. And for me personally, as much as I love the screams and the terror, I've kind of enjoyed that spot as well because there's something just serene and peaceful about Diagon Alley at night, specifically during Halloween Horror Nights. It's a vibe, you know, to go over there and get a butterbeer and sit in the moonlight. You know, so I don't know. That's not gonna be quite the same if I've got like Death Eaters in my face with their wands. I don't know how to feel about it. All right, y'all, scare zones. Okay, so right off the bat, we're gonna talk about the big one that everybody's hyped over, and that's Vamp 69. If you're not familiar, Vamp has been a huge fan favorite. We have seen it twice at the park before with Vamp 55 and Vamp 85. And I never personally got to experience these, but they look like a really good, fun time. And of course they just put vampires in, you know, a decade or a year of history. You'll see vampire versions of famous people at that time, as well as just like a caricature of stereotypes you saw in those years. This was a big year in history, so I can kind of see why they picked it. Here's a few things that we could see in this zone. Neil Armstrong stepping on the moon for the very first time. The Beatles at Abbey Road. Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. I mean, there are some really, really cool things that went on during this time of the hippies, and I personally really hope this stays on the map. The next scare zone that we have is Horoscopes? This one's a little weird, let's admit it, okay? But here's what I'm thinking. We're gonna see evil versions of all the horoscopes, which I kind of love that idea. I mean, you could get really creative and create some really, really cool monsters in this scene. Me personally, I can't wait to see the Pisces monster. You know what I'm saying? Like a spooky little mermaid. Let's go. The next scare zone we have is horns. Here's what I think this one's gonna be. We're getting a Krampus scare zone. Krampus could be seen on the first Spec map of the season, and that was kind of weird considering that Krampus has been at the event a couple years ago. We all know that a property, if it's successful, will switch like from a scare zone to a house or a house to a scare zone. And Krampus was a fan favorite. So here we go. I think we're gonna get a little Christmas scare zone. And I personally, I'm all about it. Like, I wanna dance in the snow and say hi to Krampus. And our last scare zone is jungle. Just jungle. I got nothing. I don't know what to tell you on that. I know you came here for information, but again, these are speculations. I don't even know where they're pulling this stuff half the time. Jungle. I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. What do you think this is? Because I got nothing. And finally, taking it to the shows, we have a Vamp show. So this will go along with the Vamp 69 situation, which I know Vamp 85, not only was it a scare zone, but they did have a stage and a whole performance. So something along this line. I'm just saying, it better be Woodstock. I'm trying to go to Vampire at Woodstock. Let's go, baby. And of course, we have Nightmare Fuel, which we all know is gonna be at the event. They've been there the last 2 years replacing the Academy of Villains, and they're probably gonna be here for a while. So that's it, y'all. That is our third Spec map of the season. I think if the event is very similar to this, we could have one of the best years that we've seen at Halloween Horror Nights in a couple years. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this map. More importantly, what is jungle? What is jungle? I need to know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a big ol' thumbs up. It definitely helps out the channel. And if you want to stay up to date on all things Halloween Horror Nights 32, definitely hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, because we are going to be updating you on every Spec map, every announcement, everything along the way, and we're going to get you hyped for the best event of the year. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you nerds in the fog!